By age 5, he was composing. By 10, performing for kings. By 17, he had written his first opera. By 35, he was gone. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart produced over 600 works in his brief lifetime. Symphonies, operas, concertos, chamber music, at a speed and quality that left the world speechless. And yet his life was marked by constant financial struggle, unstable relationships, and the crushing weight of a world that couldn't quite contain him. So here's the question. Was Mozart's genius simply a divine accident, or was it wired into the very fabric of who he was? An energetic blueprint running beneath the surface of everything he did? Today, we explore Mozart's life through the lens of human design, a modern framework that maps how each of us is built to generate, respond to, and interact with the world. Mozart never knew this system, but his life practically wrote the textbook. So what is human design? It's a synthesis of ancient and modern wisdom and quantum physics combined into a single chart that maps your energetic architecture. It shows your type, your inner authority, your defined and undefined centers, and the channels and gates that make you uniquely, irreducibly you. Mozart was born on January 27, 1756 in Salzburg, Austria. His recorded birth time has been cited at approximately 8 p.m., though some historical ambiguity exists. Using this data, human design scholars have identified Mozart most likely as a 3-5 manifesting generator with sacral authority. Let's unpack that. Manifesting generators, often called MGs, are the most dynamic type in human design. They have both the raw, sustainable life force energy of a generator and the initiating power of a manifester. They are built to move fast, do multiple things simultaneously, and create relentlessly. Sound familiar? Their strategy is to wait to respond, to let life bring cues, and then unleash. Their signature feeling, when aligned: satisfaction, their not self-shadow, when misaligned, frustration, and anger. And Mozart's profile, the 3-5, is a fascinating blend of the martyr and the heretic. The 3 learns through trial, error, and lived experience. The 5 is perceived by others as a savior, a genius, a solution to the world's problems, whether they asked for it or not. Salzburg, 1756, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart enters the world as the 7th and only surviving child of Leopold Mozart, a court violinist, composer, and one of the most ambitious music teachers of his era. Leopold recognized something extraordinary in young Wolfgang almost immediately. By age 3, he was watching his sister, Maria Anna Nannerl, take harpsichord lessons and trying to replicate what she played. By 4, he was composing short pieces. By 5, Leopold had written them down. Through a human design lens, what was happening here? Mozart's sacral center, the engine at the core of a generator or manifesting generator, was responding. He didn't decide to love music. He didn't plan to compose. He heard sound and something inside him lit up. That is sacral response. That is the MG blueprint activating. But here's where conditioning enters. Leopold, recognizing his son's gifts, immediately monetized them. By age 6, Mozart and Nannerl were taken on a grand European tour, performing for nobility in palaces, in courts across Vienna, Paris, and London for years. For a 3-5 profile, this early life of constant exposure, being pushed onto stages, scrutinized, praised, projected upon, was both formative and destabilizing. The 3-line energy needs to experiment, fail privately, and learn. Mozart was instead thrust into public performance with almost no room for failure. The 5-line energy was being activated prematurely. The world was already casting him as a savior genius, before he had developed the interior foundation to hold that projection. And his open centers, Mozart likely had undefined head and ajna centers, meaning he absorbed the mental pressure and conceptual frameworks of everyone around him. In practice, Leopold's ambitions became Wolfgang's ambitions. It would take most of his adult life to begin separating the two. His undefined heart center also meant he was prone to proving himself, working tirelessly, not from true inner motivation, but from the conditioned belief that he had to keep earning his place. He was a child prodigy, shaped as much by his father's architecture as by his own. By his mid-teens, the cracks were already showing. Mozart was brilliant, but he was also increasingly unemployable by conventional standards. His temperament didn't fit the aristocratic patron-servant structure of 18th century music. He was outspoken, playful, scatological in his letters, and utterly unwilling to perform subservience the way the system demanded. This is the 3/5 in full expression. The 3-line was racking up failures, rejected job applications, strained relationships with patrons, a disastrous attempt to find stable court employment in Mannheim and Paris. His mother, who traveled with him on this tour, died in Paris in 1778. Wolfgang was 22. Grief, financial collapse, professional rejection, and yet the music never stopped. This is the manifesting generator's paradox. Externally, life looks chaotic. Internally, the sacral engine keeps going. Mozart composed during the worst periods of his life with the same ferocity as during the best ones. He couldn't not create. That's not discipline, that's design. His undefined emotional solar plexus, if applicable to his chart, would have meant he rode the emotional waves of those around him intensely, particularly his father's disappointment and his patrons' moods, without always knowing what was his feeling and what was theirs. In 1781, something seismic shifted. Mozart, now 25, was publicly humiliated and effectively dismissed from service under Archbishop Colloredo of Salzburg. Rather than fold, he made a radical move. He quit, he moved to Vienna, he went freelance. For a manifesting generator, this is the moment of alignment. No longer waiting for a patron to define his output, Mozart began responding to the world on his terms. Commissions, publications, performances, teaching, all pursued through sacral response rather than forced strategy. In 1782, he married Constanze Weber, a relationship his father fiercely opposed. The 3/5 in action, trial, and bond. The marriage was imperfect, criticized by contemporaries, but it was his choice. For perhaps the first time, Mozart was living less from his father's blueprint and more from his own sacral knowing. And then, between 1782 and 1788, came the explosion. The 6 string quartets dedicated to Haydn, the piano concertos numbers 20 and 21, The Marriage of Figaro, Don Giovanni, the Jupiter Symphony. This was Mozart's Saturn return period, roughly ages 28 to 30, the astrological rite of passage where the structures we've inherited are dismantled and rebuilt by our own hands. For Mozart, the Saturn return coincided exactly with his most prolific and celebrated creative output. He wasn't just maturing, he was, for a brief window, fully inhabiting his design. But the manifesting generator's shadow is this: when the energy runs faster than the world can receive it, frustration turns inward, and frustration unchecked becomes depletion. By the late 1780s, the Viennese public's taste was shifting. The aristocracy was losing its wealth to war. Mozart's concert subscriptions dwindled. He began writing frantic letters begging for loans. He moved to cheaper apartments. He fell ill repeatedly, and yet the music kept coming. The clarinet concerto, the magic flute, and that final hauntingly unfinished piece commissioned by an anonymous stranger, the Requiem. The 5-line energy was at its most exposed here. Others continued to project their needs onto him. The mysterious commissioner wanted a requiem, perhaps for himself, perhaps as a commission to claim later as his own. Mozart, ill and exhausted, poured himself into it. The 3 profiles lesson that some bonds, projects, and relationships must end to make way for what's next was perhaps the hardest lesson Mozart never fully integrated. He kept taking on more, responding to every sacral pull without discernment, without rest. He died on December 5th, 1791. He was 35 years old, and the cause remains debated: rheumatic fever, kidney disease, perhaps multiple compounding illnesses. What is undebated is this: Mozart burned with a velocity the world could barely track. So what do we make of it all? Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart lived 35 years. In that time, he produced more than 600 works, symphonies, operas, concertos, sonatas, masses, of a quality that has never been equaled in density and range. His music has been performed without interruption for nearly 250 years, and he did it largely without alignment. Imagine what was possible when he was aligned. Vienna, 1782 to 1787, responding freely, composing from Sacral Authority, living his 3-line experimentally and his 5-line with bounded authenticity. That 5-year window produced work that still stops hearts. And then imagine what more might have been possible had he understood his design. Had he known that his open heart center didn't mean he was worth less. Had he known that his 3-line failures weren't failures at all, they were the method. Had he known to rest when the sacral said rest, not just when the body finally collapsed. This is what human design calls quantum sovereignty, the conscious, deliberate choice to live from your authentic blueprint rather than the conditioned programming of family, society, and expectation. Mozart never had that language, but every once in a while, especially in Vienna, especially between 1782 and 1787, he stumbled into it. And when he did, he rewrote what was possible for human beings. Mozart didn't know human design. He didn't have a quantum sovereignty framework. He didn't know he was a 3-5 manifesting generator who needed to wait to respond, honor his sacral, and stop believing his undefined heart center's lie that he had to earn his worth. He just lived brilliantly, painfully, magnificently. But here's what his story offers us: proof that when human beings operate even partially in alignment with their innate blueprint, however accidentally, they produce something extraordinary, something that lasts. Now ask yourself, what might be possible if you understood your design consciously, not in hindsight like Mozart's story, but right now, in real time, with your whole life still ahead of you? If Mozart's unconscious alignment could give the world the Jupiter Symphony, Don Giovanni, and the Requiem, what can your conscious alignment give the world? Take the first step. Discover your own energetic blueprint with our free clarity quiz. Linked below. It takes 5 minutes. It might change everything. Thank you for watching. And remember, you are not here by accident. You are here by design.